Okay, I'm here to talk to you guys about Nearpod, which we have been using a lot lately in class at Ignite. I know Ms. Furstenberg likes to use this with us. And before I even show you anything about Nearpod, I just want to talk about it for a second. So I really like Nearpod because it has the option to add content and activities in the same area super easily. It gives you access to a bunch of different activities you can put in and a bunch of different ways you can add content, which I'll get into later. And probably my favorite thing about Nearpod is you can choose whether it's going to be student-paced or class-paced. So I know Ms. Furstenberg has led Nearpods with us at the front of the class where we all join. And we all are able to work together, go at the same pace. She decides when we move from one slide to the next, and it helps with class discussion. It can help with working together more. But then there's also a way you can make it student paced. So whenever you start your lesson, you can choose to make it student paced, and it'll stay open for a week where students can work on their Nearpod by themselves. And I really like this because it allows the students who need more help to get more help, and the ones who understand it and they know what they're doing, they can just go ahead and go. So I'm actually going to show you guys a Nearpod that I made last year, which is right here. It's this one we made for education history. So I wanted to show you guys this really quick. So I'm just going to look at the preview because that's the easiest way for it to load. So there's two different kinds of content that you can, or two different kinds of things you put into Nearpod, which I talked about, content and activities. So this slide would be an example of content. It has the title and the picture in it. This one is an example of an activity. So this is a collaboration board. I put my question up here, and last year I had everyone go ahead and type their thoughts. So once a student types something, so I'm just going to say hello, it shows up and everyone else can respond to it, or they can add their own little blurb in there if they want to. So this is one way you can have an activity. This is another example of a content-based slide. And then this is another content-based slide, but this is what I like about Nearpod is I was able to do a VR where people could see 360. So I was talking about the terrorist attacks like you saw. So I was able to have my students go in and look at this memorial that they have for 9/11, and they all thought this was really cool. So this is one of the content types that you can put into Nearpod, and it just has it available for you. You don't have to figure out how to include it. This is another one. You can put in pictures. Here's another picture. And here's another example of an activity. So students can answer a question, and this helps make sure the students are engaged as they're going along, and you can also check for learning. Here's another type of content that you can put into Nearpod. It allows you to put in links and PDFs. So I put a link to this PDF where students could go and look at this example letter from the United States Department of Education. And here's another example of that poll, the question we were talking about. More content slides, so it's super easy to add in pictures. You can even add in this infographic. I was able to put in a pie chart for students to look at. And I really like this because you can have a mix of content and activities all in one spot. And this is an example of another activity. I put in a game, so students are able to answer questions and to check their learning, but also to have fun at the same time. So that's about Nearpod. I think it's a really good tool to use, and I love using it. And I think it's a good alternative instead of using Google Slides or Canva every single time. And while those are great, they're not always as interactive as a Nearpod could be. And Nearpod, making sure every student is involved. The only downfall is you need a one-to-one Chromebook. So if you're in a school where every student doesn't have a computer, it could be a lot harder to use Nearpod. But in places like Bentonville, where every student does have a computer, I think this is a really good tool to utilize in the classroom.